What is it that creates confidence in the brain?
What we all have in our brains are clusters of neurons that fire as a result of certain thoughts and memories and experiences. Write out a list of your most enjoyable, enthusiastic, rewarding accomplishments in your life. I liken that process to basically opening up a psychological bank account of achievements, awards, good experiences.
And when you do these little deposits, you're actually reminding your body of what that neurology is like. So for most people, they'll say to you, well, I haven't thrown a touchdown. You know, I'm an entry-level person working in a cubicle somewhere, and I don't have these deposits. The truth is that's a lie, isn't it?
Define yourself by the quality of your effort, the successes that you have achieved, and the magnitude of the obstacles that you have overcome.
I've known people, for example, who are very confident people, and frankly, their spouse left them, and their confidence is annihilated. Or they're very good in business, and then they've had a bad year or lost the business. They've almost become a shell of themselves externally.
What I say to them is we've got to protect that bank account of yours. Do we look at our setbacks as temporary or permanent? Take your pick. Secondly, do we keep them limited or do we globalize them? And third, and this is where it really gets important, and this is what most people struggle with most of all.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. So this week, I want to get right into it. We're going to talk about self-confidence, and this is not your normal self-confidence podcast, you know, with the normal platitudes that you hear a million times about how to build self-confidence. This is going to be different. And the reason it's different is because of my guest. You guys know I curate guests that I believe can bring something to the table that haven't been at the table before for so many of you. And Dr. Zinsser is absolutely fits that criteria. Let me tell you why. He's the director of West Point's Performance Psychology program, where he trains U.S. military academy cadets and leaders how to operate effectively, frankly, how to build their own self-confidence with some of the most important people in the world. He's also worked with Olympic athletes, pro sports teams. Kind of Eli Manning stands out to me because he beat my Patriots twice. So I definitely have to dive into that one. And obviously corporate leaders and elite military leaders as well. He's got a great book called The Confident Mind, best-selling book as well. This is going to be a unique conversation. It's going to help you get more confident. So, Dr. Zinsser, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Ed. I'm really looking forward to this.
He's also medicated. He's 8 days out of knee replacement surgery. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm only medicated with acetaminophen, so there will be no drowsiness. There will be no slips of the tongue. There will be no embarrassing references made.
Outstanding. And by the way, it's okay if you do. It gets us more downloads, so feel free. So let me ask you a question. I want to start out just for kind of laying a foundation, just because I'm curious myself too. Tell me about your work at West Point. I've never been allowed anywhere near the place, so I would just like to know what your work's like there.
Well, you got to come pay us a visit.
Okay.
The military academy is an extraordinary institution. Every year, 4,000 young men and women from all across the country and from at least a dozen foreign countries train in a very rigorous curriculum, including academic training, physical training, military training. After that 47-month experience, these young men and women are graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree, and they are commissioned as second lieutenants in the Army. They serve a minimum of 5 years. Some of them go on to serve 10, 20, 30 years and reach very high ranks in the Army. Others leave after 5 or 10 years and take leadership roles in the private sector and civilian governance. My work at West Point, 30 years directing a performance psychology program, was to take what we knew from sports science about the intangibles of human performance and take them out of any kind of mysterious or intangible framework and reduce them to learnable, practicable skills.
Mm.
So we were teaching cadets the how to remain confident when the crap hits the fan, which it
Yep.
always does,
Mm-hmm.
how to be focused on what's important, even though there are a million distractions, and how to retain energy and awareness and enthusiasm despite tons and tons of physical, mental, and emotional stress.
So good.
So there's a curriculum that we established, which has been going on in West Point for over 30 years now, and it's been exported to various units outside of West Point, different Army posts around the country and around the world.
Mm. And now little pieces of it will be exported. This is what's so great about podcasting, by the way. Someone like me, or probably some of my friends listening, I really could get nowhere near West Point, but through podcasting, I'm going to pick up, some of the things that these elite performers have picked up in their life. So let me ask you a question, basic question first, because I do a lot of work on self-confidence, and I also work with athletes and corporate people and CEOs, et cetera. But your work is so specific. What is it that creates confidence in the brain? Like just as a mechanism to begin with. How would you answer that?
What is it that creates confidence in the brain? Well, the only thing that creates anything in the brain are clusters of neurons that fire together.
Right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what we all have in our brains are clusters of neurons that fire as a result of and as a cause to certain thoughts and memories and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get your brain continually firing those particular clumps of neurons, it just becomes your brain's default habit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you find yourself engaged rather than hesitant. You find yourself excited rather than apprehensive. And it's simply because you have trained yourself to think and think in one way only.
Mm-hmm.
And because you have been thinking in one way, you have literally done some physical rewiring
Yes.
of the gray matter between your ears and the gray matter that goes down your spinal cord.
Mm-hmm. Now, that rewiring, let's say you're listening to you today and you're like, okay, I do have a consistent way of thinking, and I've been thinking for 30 years as an unconfident person. I've replayed memories from childhood or my adult experience where I've had a failure or a setback, or maybe not even that. Maybe I've just always been pretty, in my mind, average,
Yeah,
right?
you just said it. I've always been in my mind pretty average. Keep going, Ed.
Well, I'm not, so I live that. My belief system is if you live that way in your mind, your external world will probably produce those results, right?
You're
And so,
100% right.
okay,
Yeah.
so if I've lived this way for a long time, I've got that wiring. What are some of the practices, and please take a few minutes on this, that you would offer to my audience that could begin to rewire what goes on in their mind, like actual practices, practical application, strategic stuff?
Okay. First, applicable practice. Take whatever time is necessary and a piece of paper and a writing implement and write out a list of your most enjoyable, enthusiastic, rewarding accomplishments in your life,
Okay.
whatever they may be. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I liken that process to basically opening up a bank account, a psychological bank account of achievements, awards, good experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody has them. We
Mm-hmm.
may have overlooked them
Mm-hmm.
for various reasons,
Mm-hmm.
which we can get into, but they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody makes it into West Point. Nobody makes it into a college athletic program. Nobody makes it to a professional level. Nobody makes it to the C-suite. But I haven't done a hell of a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we need to do is shine a light on that.
Okay.
It's like being a miner and you're looking for those nuggets of gold or diamond.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being a detective. I'm looking for clues. So I outline an exercise called the top 10. Top 10 moments. If you're a baseball pitcher, it's your top 10 moments playing baseball. I was high school player of the year. I had my first college start here. I got my first college win there. Da, 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 da. So that sort of establishes the bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and this exercise, the last guy who interviewed me for a podcast refers to this as the deadlift of mental training exercises.
Okay.
If you're going to do one strength exercise, you deadlift.
Yep.
If you're
Okay.
going to do one thing consistently in terms of building your confidence, you're going to do what I call the ESP daily reflection.
Okay.
At the end of every day, you reflect on your experiences of the day. and ask yourself three questions. Where did I put in quality effort? Here, here, here.
Right.
Second question, what did I get right?
Hmm.
Oh, I made a success here. I did well on this drill. I got this compliment there. Third question, what am I making progress in?
Hmm.
Well, I'm getting better at understanding the periodic table. I'm getting better at understanding certain AI implications in my business. I'm getting better at throwing that deep corner back shoulder fade.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And that reflection takes literally 5 minutes.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I encourage people to keep that in some kind of written journal format.
Okay.
And that is a daily deposit into that mental bank account that I described.
I have
So
to
you
tell you,
establish the bank account
yep.
and then you add to it and you add to it and you add to it and you add to it. Those are the two most important exercises, practical drills that people can do to build up a sense of certainty about themselves.
Okay, guys, I have to tell you, first of all, don't discount what he just said. So my producer's my son actually now, and so I know he's in the studio sort of smirking because one of the techniques that I teach with the athletes or leaders that I work with is called the highlight reel. And
Same deal.
correct, same deal. But let's talk about why this works and why people don't do it. So the reason that I do, so I'll have people pick two or three highlights and then feed to themselves the cognitive rehearsal of the next highlight they wish to achieve in their life.
Mhm.
And the reason that this works, everybody, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but confidence, success, peak performance, the zone, whatever you want to call it, is actually a neurology. There's a chemistry that's happening within your body when you're choking or nervous or scared or unconfident. And there's a different chemistry in your body that you inhibit that is a confident one. And when you do these little deposits, you're actually reminding your body of what that neurology is like, correct?
That's
Just
right. That's
making
exactly
deposits.
that's a great way to understand it. Yes.
Okay. Now, the challenge is for most people, it's interesting. The lack of confidence that we all have produces our filter for the way we see ourselves in the world. So, for most people, they'll say, when you just said that, so let's just dig deep, let's push each other here. They'll say to you, well, I haven't thrown a touchdown. I didn't get into West Point. Heck, I couldn't get into a junior college. Or, I'm an entry level person working in a cubicle somewhere, and I don't have these deposits. The truth is that's a lie, isn't it? That they have
That's
had
right.
successes, but their lack of confidence is a filter where they discount themselves and the things they do well. So if you ask the average person, give me a list of the 20 things the last year you've screwed up or messed up, they can recall that in a minute. But if you said to them, give me three things you did in the last month or the last day that were great, they have to search through this filter they've got that tells them they're worthless. So could you just speak to that for a second in terms of not all of it has to be some touchdown you've thrown in the NFL. It could simply be, a great conference call you had or a great Zoom or a great interaction with your children that just was loving and kind, right?
All of the above qualify.
Hmm.
Any memory, any statement about yourself in the present,
Hmm.
any fantasy, vision of something you want in the future that creates a sense of energy and optimism and enthusiasm
Hmm.
is worth hanging on to, however small it might be.
Hmm.
The point that you're raising, Ed, which is really important, is that so many of us were brought up to think that we can only value our experience, we can only value ourselves if we have achieved everything that the world has deemed to be important. Great grades in school, great bunch of friends, won every game you ever played in, had the most attractive spouse possible. We have been socialized to kind of search for, hang on to, and unfortunately define ourselves by our negative experiences.
Hmm.
So much of our socialization has brought us to that. And I am constantly, and it sounds like you're constantly as well,
Hmm.
urging people to look for, hang on to, and define yourself by the quality of your effort, the successes that you have achieved, and basically the magnitude of the obstacles that you have overcome.
Well,
That's what you want to define yourself by.
one of the things that's really booming right now is people deciding to take their children's education into their own hands. And I absolutely understand that. If I had young ones right now, I can tell you I'd be doing it. And if you're a family that's looking for a new path to help their child succeed, K-12 could be the perfect fit. K-12 Powered Schools offers, listen to this, tuition-free, accredited online public education for students kindergarten through 12th grade. They're going to meet your child's needs, meaning they're going to figure out the best way to educate your child on their learning style. K-12 has been a leader in online education for over 25 years. K-12's dedicated teachers are trained in virtual instruction and provide real-time support. Students will belong to a real, vibrant, engaged online community so they don't feel alone or isolated in their learning. There's socialization that you can control and set the setting for as well. So see how K-12 Powered Schools can help unlock your child's full potential. Enroll online today at k12.com/Mylett. That's the letter K, number 12.com/Mylett. So one thing I just did one of these tests from Tiny. Let me tell you something. If you track your sleep, you count your macros, maybe you're closing the loop on your watch, but you've never looked into your gut microbiome, you're missing a pretty huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to your health. And Tiny Health gives you real, detailed data about your body so you can optimize your health with more precision. Tiny Health is an at-home gut health test that gives you a detailed breakdown of what's actually happening in your body. Tiny Health uses what they call metagenomic sequencing, the same technology used in clinical research to analyze your full gut ecosystem. So if you're interested in trying Tiny Health to learn about your health, you should do it, because I did, and it was a very enlightening process, and I've changed what I'm doing. So start improving your health. Tiny Health is offering my listeners their most aggressive offer yet, $50 off your first home test kit at tinyhealth.com/Mylett. tinyhealth.com/Mylett for $50 off. tinyhealth.com/Mylett. The two things you said there that stand out to me that you've repeated twice, and I don't think people give themselves enough credit for this, is effort. The basis often for the foundation of confidence has to begin with your effort, because effort precedes the result. And so if all of your confidence, you guys listening, is based on the results you produce all the time, you're going to be waiting around a long time to build that self-confidence level. But if it's predicated on effort, that I did get into the gym, I did do the reps I said I was going to do, I did do one more at the end when I promised myself.
I emptied my daggone mailbox at the end of the day before I left the office.
See, this is fascinating to me. Like, this is how confidence is truly built, everybody. Let me ask you a question about a failure. Or a traumatic event, because I know with war fighters or soldiers of any type, I mean, they may have, there could be a PTSD moment, there could be childhood trauma, there could be, I flunked a test. And this oftentimes can kind of scramble our wiring, right? Where right. I've known people, for example, who are very confident people, and frankly, their spouse left them and their confidence is annihilated. Or they're very good in business and then something happened to the business and they've had a bad year or lost the business. And in all honesty, they've almost become a shell of themselves externally. And I know that started internally.
They never fully recovered from that setback.
What would you say to that person who's gone through something like that?
What I say to them is, we've got to protect that bank account of yours. We've got to set up some cognitive safeguards so that the imperfect physical world that we live in and your personal physical inevitable imperfections do not destroy the energy, the optimism, and the enthusiasm that you have been building up by reflecting constructively on your various memories and your experiences. So I steal a whole lot of work from the positive psychology movement, spearheaded by Martin Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania, looking at how do we mentally respond to setbacks? Do we see them as temporary? Yeah, they happen. They suck. But it was just a one-time deal. Or do we say to ourselves, uh-oh, it happened, and it's going to happen over and over and over again? Permanent. Do we look at our setbacks as temporary or permanent? Take your pick. Secondly, do we look at our imperfections and our setbacks and our failures as basically limited in terms of where they occurred? Yes, it happened in that inning of the baseball game. Yes, it happened in that conversation with that individual or that board meeting. Or do we say to ourselves, oh, every time, everywhere, all these things get screwed up. Do we keep them limited or do we globalize them? Okay.
Oh.
And third, and this is where it really gets important, and this is what most people struggle with most of all. When a setback takes place, are we able to put it in a perspective? Yeah, it happened, but it's non-representative of me.
Ooh.
It's non-representative of me. It
Mm.
happened. There could be consequences, but that setback does not tell the truth about me.
Wow.
So
That,
I have to keep my
yeah.
setbacks and failures temporary, limited, not the truth, as opposed to permanent, everywhere, and absolutely the truth about myself.
That's
And,
true.
and and that's just a distinction that everybody can make. It takes some practice to establish that as a habit. And I'm constantly counseling
Mm.
people to do that, challenging them to put just the difficulties of life with a
Mm.
capital L in those temporary, limited, and not the truth terms. Because if we go that way, we are blind to our own possibilities and to our own capabilities.
Wow, that's profound. That was really good right there, Nate. Really good. You know, I find the third one so prominent where people will have a failure and I'll literally hear them say, I'm a failure.
Exactly.
They
That,
attack the
that that
result
is
of their identity.
precisely the point. Instead of, okay, I failed at something, they make the categorical judgment, henceforth, I am a failure. No, you might have goofed that calculus test. You
Mm.
might have goofed that fitness test. You
Mm.
might have goofed your execution of your high bar set in the gymnastics meet.
Mm.
Okay, let's leave it right there.
Yeah.
Let's not draw the conclusion that I'm a failure categorically.
Yep. This
And people have to
globalization.
practice that.
Yeah, that term you made of you ought to ask yourself this, everybody, too. Do you sort of globalize results? I love that term because, you were in a relationship, this person doesn't love you anymore. That doesn't mean you're unlovable. That
Right.
means in this relationship. Another thing I've deduced listening to you, and it's like it's an old school thing because you're such a scientifically based guy, but that you don't hear anymore in what I'd call like self-help circles or personal development or self-confidence. This interesting thing you've said three different times, I think, and I want you to speak to it. It used to be that, hey, listen, you got to get excited. You got to have some enthusiasm. You know what's interesting? I never hear that anymore, the word enthusiasm. Yet
Hmm.
you've said it three times. It's like almost like this missing thing that used to be talked about all the time. But there's something to be said for the level of enthusiasm you bring to a project, a meeting, a relate. And it's just one of these things that, at least for me, I think we just forget. It's like, okay, I prepared my notes. I know what I'm going to say, or we've got a game plan for the game or the meeting. And you forget the enthusiasm, the energy part
Hmm.
of confidence, of success,
Yes.
of making it
Yes.
infectious. So speak to enthusiasm. And also, how does that impact the other people, your family or business people you lead?
Um, I think the word enthusiasm sometimes gets misinterpreted to mean, confetti and balloons and angels blowing trumpets, great big deals. But how about just that little sort of secret smile? Yeah, this could be really cool. That's enthusiasm. This meeting could turn out great. We could smoke these guys in the second half. Okay. I could turn my platoon into the shit hottest bunch of dudes and dames in the army. And it's not this boisterous loud thing. It's just this internal, yeah, that could be cool. That that level of enthusiasm, I think is really productive. And it's something that you can sustain throughout the day, the week, the month, the quarter, a career, jumping up and down and with the balloons and the confetti. Oh, that's kind of tiring.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right.
and to your second point, it's just that quiet, okay, we're going to do this.
Mm.
That quiet level of enthusiasm.
Mm.
People are drawn to that automatically. They don't necessarily know why. They just say, look, oh, it's cool being around that dude. Okay,
Mm.
that woman has a certain degree of classy power because she communicates. But she's not doing it necessarily to impress everybody else.
Yeah.
She's just doing it because she knows it's the right thing to do. And it somehow, I don't know, psychically leaches out and draws other people to you.
This is why I love doing the show. It's the little subtle distinctions that I get from someone like you. It's so profound as a 55-year-old guy of bringing a sustainable level of enthusiasm to your
Yeah.
endeavors, not the crazy bells and whistles that can't endure the season, the year, the company.
Hmm.
You're right. It's sustainable enthusiasm. I love that classy level of confidence. That, by the way, everyone, a lot of you are listening on audio. Those of you that are listening on YouTube saw this, but what Dr. Zinsser was doing was there was this kind of smirk in his physiology. And so I want you to speak to this for a second too. Is there a connection between physiology and the mental level of confidence, whether that be physical exertion, the way we use our face, our breathing? Is there a correlation in your mind that you teach between physiology, physical movement, and confidence?
There definitely is a connection. I wouldn't consider myself an expert on it.
Mhm.
I do know that shoulders slumped forward, head facing downward, tends to both communicate a lack of enthusiasm, and it literally tends to produce it in oneself.
Hmm.
Conversely, shoulders back, chin up a little bit, eye contact.
Hmm.
Okay. This communicates to the observer a level of engagement, a level of enthusiasm.
Yep.
And there is some research to demonstrate that posture alters your emotional state.
Okay.
It's somewhat controversial, but I urge everybody to try it.
Yep.
Sit up straighter,
Yep. By the way,
get your shoulders back.
I agree. I actually think, I don't think this is disputable. Listen, when you got on the Zoom here today, I knew immediately within 30 seconds I was dealing with a confident person as it comes to the topic he was speaking on. There's an assumption physically that somebody makes when they're confident, and there's a doubting, sort of constricted, bent over physiology of someone who is hopeful you're going to
Mhm.
believe them. I hope you like me. I hope you find me attractive. I hope you think. There's a difference between hoping and assumption, and it's not arrogance. There is a physical connotation to how we do hold ourselves. And it's not, and to your point, I don't think it's over the top. I think it's subtle. I think it's nuanced. I don't think it has to be, you see those guys that walk around way too puffed out, right?
Mhm.
Way too much of their chest. This guy's is a poser. And I'm sure there's a similar physiology for a woman. It's subtle, but I do think those of you that are working on your confidence, you should at least check a box of how's my physiology, my facial expressions, how I walk, how I talk, my pace, my tonality, my cadence, I think
Am
matters.
I acting in a way that I would want to follow somebody? You
Wow.
know, am I being the kind of person that I would want to follow?
Wow.
It can be as simple as that.
Hmm.
Who are the people that you are sort of naturally, almost unconsciously engaged with?
Hmm.
What are they like? Are they
Hmm.
right, set back? Are they all right, all right, all right? Are they open,
Hmm.
open?
Hmm.
Why don't you just be that way? Just try it for a little while. You're not faking anything. You are being a version of yourself. That's not fake.
Yeah.
That's you being you.
Yeah.
Let's explore that.
Very good. Yeah, you're right. I think sometimes I think, well, I'm copying this person. There's a difference for me because when I was young, I lacked confidence. I did exactly what you thought. I thought, well, who do I admire? Who would I want leading me? And what I would call that, guys, that's listening, so you don't feel fake, it's more like modeling somebody than copying them. It's my
Hmm.
version of
Yeah.
the things I've noticed in them that I found pleasing or attractive or brought me
Eff-
confidence.
Effective.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. When I started this podcast, it seemed like I had to figure everything out on my own. Scripts, setup, filming schedule, logos, posting, marketing. It was completely overwhelming. And probably a lot of you feel that way in your business as well. And every day it seemed like I had to make a new decision that needed an answer. And a lot of them were just questions I didn't have answers for. So that's where Shopify came in, to be honest with you. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. In fact, listen to this, 10% of all e-commerce in the US, 10% from household names that you know, like the Ed Mylett show, to brands just getting started. You could do the same. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify can help you build a beautiful online store that matches your style. So listen, start your business today with the industry's best partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/Mylett. Go to shopify.com/Mylett. That's shopify.com/Mylett. So if you listen to this show or you watch this show, here's what I know about you. You're trying to feel healthier. You're trying to feel more energy. And by the way, there's all kinds of things we're all doing to make that happen, right? We drink more water. We get our steps in. You're taking your vitamins. Maybe you're doing the macros thing. But here's what most people miss. I missed it for a long time. Your liver health. It affects literally everything. It affects your energy, your digestion, how your skin looks, even your metabolism. That's a biggie. Dose for Your Liver is a clinically backed liver health supplement. One of a kind. This isn't just another capsule or powder. Dose is a liquid supplement. It's taken in a daily 2-ounce shot, and it tastes like fresh squeezed orange juice. Tastes really, really good. It's got real results. Ready to give your liver the support it deserves? Head to dosedaily.co/Mylett or enter Mylett to get, listen to this, 35% off your first subscription. Your body does so much for you. Let's do something for that. That's dosedaily.co/Mylett for 35% off your first month subscription. Okay, I'm going to give you a guy. I need to know about this because you talk about our minds. There's this dude. I'm a huge Boston sports fan. And you're already smiling. And I liked you, Nate, until I found out you helped this guy. And now I'm on the fence until we're done here today. But so I'm a Pats fan. And I think most of you know, if you're not football fans, there's this guy named Eli Manning who's basically ruined my life twice. And I mean it, like ruined my life. And so Eli Manning's quarterback for the New York Giants. He's not in the Hall of Fame yet, but he should be. I'll even say that on his behalf. He's won a couple Super Bowls. He's basically really one of two people who ever beat Tom Brady in a Super Bowl, and he actually did it both times he played him. So think about that, you guys. He's also got an older brother who was a great player. He was like almost the second one in the family. So some of you feel that way. Oh, my sister's the rock star. My brother's the one that everybody looks up to. Eli had that with his own dad and his own brother. He was like third wheel. And he's won 2 Super Bowls and beat the GOAT twice. Tell us about your work with Eli. And someone told me you got a story, at least I need to hear about Super Bowl 46, which I probably don't want to hear, and I'm probably going to edit out, but I want you to tell it anyway. Tell it anyway.
Okay. I first met Eli in the spring of 2007. A former West Point grad, West Point assistant coach who was on the Giants coaching staff suggested to head coach Tom Coughlin, I think this guy, Nate Zinsser up at West Point, might be a good influence on Eli. And, Tom Coughlin grilled me for a couple of hours in his office. And he said, okay, we'll give this a shot. Eli and I connected, and we just began a relationship, a mentor-mentee relationship. And the thing that immediately impressed me about Eli was the simple trait of curiosity. What's out there that might help me? Okay. And he's been very, very clear about this when he's been asked about it in different interviewing sessions and different different media outlets. He's been very clear. Everybody talked about, oh, you got to be mentally tough. You got to be mentally tough. You got to be mentally tough. He had been told that playing college ball at Ole Miss. He'd been told that, in his 3 years with the Giants. I didn't meet with him until that gap between his third and fourth Giants season. Everybody had talked about how important this is. You got to have a great attitude. You got to be mentally tough. Da, 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 da. But nobody had ever broken it down into steps. Okay. And Eli was, he was a very attentive pupil, and he and I met regularly throughout the spring and the summer of 2007. We continued our relationship, basically breaking down every game he played
Mm.
from a mental toughness point of view, you know? And so now February of 2008 comes around, and Eli puts on an incredible show in the fourth quarter and ends up beating the heavily favored and at that point undefeated Patriots for Super Bowl 42. Um, it was one of the coolest moments of my life.
One of the worst of mine.
Yeah. Okay. Now, 4 years later, the Patriots and the Giants again face each other in the Super Bowl. Okay. And once again, the Patriots are favored. And once again, Eli has a remarkable fourth quarter. Okay. The Giants were down by 2 points with 4.5 minutes on the clock. The ball's on their own 10-yard line.
Mm.
They've got enough time to dink the ball down the field, kick a field goal, go up by one. But that means they're going to give the ball back to Brady and the Patriots with like 2 minutes on the clock. And all they got to do is dink the ball down the field and they'll kick a field goal and win. So the Giants got to score a touchdown if they are going to win. And so Eli takes a snap in the shotgun, looks right, looks over the middle, sees Mario Manningham deep, right about at midfield, and he launches this perfect arc of a ball. There are two Patriot defenders draped all over Manningham, but this ball is so beautifully placed that it just falls right into Manningham's hand, and he steps out of bounds right next. He almost knocks Bill Belichick over, when he steps out of bounds after making that catch. That play set up the Giants' go-ahead touchdown. For all intents and purposes, game over. 2 days later, Eli is doing his mandatory, I think his ESPN radio interview, and he's asked about that play. And he's asked specifically, do you ever consider the ramifications of failure at a time like that?
Mm.
And this is basically asking an NFL quarterback, do you think about screwing up in an important moment? That's a very,
Yeah.
consider that question. Do you consider the ramifications of failure at moments like that? And I think Eli wanted to say, are you out of your freaking mind, dude?
Mm.
He basically, being the gentleman that he is, said, well, that's exactly what you don't do. In moments like that, you think about all the times you have succeeded with a fourth quarter comeback. You recall the games against this team and this team and this team and this team where you were successful in those particular kinds of moments.
Mm-hmm.
You forget about the other ones. He literally said, you misremember those misses and you hang on to the memories of your successes. That's the feeling. That's the feeling. So the ability to think about, I've done some good stuff. This could be really cool. That's the feeling that you want to have when you are in your own equivalent of the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl. Rather than, uh-oh, this is really big. I better not mess this up. Okay. And if any of your listeners were watching the figure skating events at this year's Winter Olympiad, you saw a couple people who were clearly, uh-oh, this is the Olympics. I can't afford to screw up. Failure would be really bad. And you also saw a couple people who were, I'm just here to see how well I can skate. I'm just here to be artistic. I don't need a gold medal. I just want to be in the moment and be joyous. Those are the people that won the medals.
Oh my gosh, brother, that's one of the best stories ever on the show because there's a lot to pick apart there. You guys, when someone makes a point, I like to pick apart things. Did you hear what he said? He said the feeling. Remember earlier in the podcast where I said that it's a chemistry and a neurology? There's a feeling. When you have the right thoughts, you're creating a neurology, a chemistry in your body that is that of success. When you're feeding yourself the failure thoughts, you're feeding yourself the neurobiochemistry of someone who's not going to perform under pressure. That's why these thoughts matter. Well, we're recording this weekend. I'm a golf guy. Down the street from where I live was the Players Championship. golf
Uh-huh.
tournament. And there's this guy, Cameron Young. He's down by a shot going to the 17th hole. He birdies 17. Now he's tied on the 18th hole. His competitor, who's a great player, hits a ball a little bit to the right. He's going to be blocked out. He's going to have to lay up. This guy gets up, and you know what he says he was thinking? He says out loud, "This is the biggest shot of his life." He says, "I'm going to hit the greatest drive of my life." And he visualized other great drives he had hit prior. There's a
Hmm.
water to the left. There's a hazard to the right. He striped a 375-yard drive, longest drive of the entire tournament, on the most important hole, right down the middle, and he wins the golf tournament. And it's because of the imagery, just what you taught Eli to do, that he fed himself. That is one of the best stories I've ever heard. And I'm frustrated that you did that to beat my Patriots. And I'm going to leave it in the podcast. So let me ask you a couple of
Apologies.
questions. We only have a certain amount of time. And I want to give everybody tools as well. How do you
Yeah.
feel about cognitive rehearsal and visualization? And if you like it, how does someone get better at it?
Um, well, the second question is very simple. You get better at it as you practice. Okay.
Okay.
Um, Visualization is a term that kind of implies the visual aspect of seeing something around you or seeing yourself in something. Um, I use the term envisioning, slight linguistic variation, because in order to basically fool your nervous system into believing that you are throwing that touchdown or making that presentation while you are just sitting thinking about it, in order to get the nervous system really, really dialed in, you want to include, oh, what might it sound like? What might the air be like? What am I feeling? Okay. So, if I'm working with a quarterback and I want him to envision execution of a play, you
Mm,
know, maybe stand up and have a ball in your hand. Okay.
mm,
Okay. And I'm seeing the offensive line and defensive line in front of me as I'm coming up under center or as I'm setting my feet in the shotgun. And I'm hearing that sort of buzz in the environment. And then I'm hearing myself call the audibles, and I may be seeing a linebacker or a D-liner shifting in position, and then I'm going to feel my body taking that ball and delivering the quick pass. Or I'm going to sense, okay, he's running that out. There's this curl over the middle. Okay, oh, here's my safety valve, my running back that way. So I wanted to sort of feel the whole process.
mm.
Okay,
Okay.
see what you're going to see, hear what you're going to hear, feel what you're going to feel. And that way, you kind of attune your nervous system to what you might experience.
Wow.
The same way our nervous system gets fooled when we have a nightmare and we wake up with our throat tight and sweat and gripping the blankets carefully. Well, we're not in any danger, but our nervous system thinks we were. What we can do is utilize that fact that our nervous system doesn't always distinguish reality from a very vividly imagined mental representation. We can use that to our advantage.
So good.
Um,
I was
I,
just thinking,
I encourage people to
wow.
find all kinds of ways to do that.
I was just thinking two things. One, what you said, I think, is that the more senses you contribute to what is visualization, sight, feeling, etc., hearing, more senses makes it a deeper experience than just seeing.
Absolutely.
And then the second thing is all these big words I've tried to make up where neurobiochemistry is basically neurology, all this stuff I've said. You use the word nervous system, which is actually the correct description. And so thank you for that. Um, Last question, because I promised you
Yeah,
you get to go to your physical therapy for your knee. First, this has been tremendous, right? Like how cool to be able to have you on and to learn the things that you teach. I'm going to say two things to you, and then I'll just let you finish and kind of riff on it as it contributes to confidence, or you think it doesn't. Okay. So the first one is keeping the promises you make to yourself as a foundation for self confidence. Your thoughts about that as a building block. And you can just throw this together. And then preparation as it results, as it connects to self confidence or confidence in general. How important is keeping promises and how important is preparation, if at all?
How important are promises? The answer to that question is I think we're constantly keeping a bunch of promises, but they're not might not be necessarily the ones that are doing us the best good.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, I encourage people to think about what they want as if they've already got it. Okay.
Okay.
My explosion out of stance is dynamic and effective. That's a statement. Now, maybe the individual at the moment isn't all that dynamic and effective coming out of his stance, but I want him to think that he is. I want him basically to make that promise to himself and then work like hell to fulfill it.
Okay.
Okay. He could also make a statement to himself, yeah, I'm kind of slow off the line,
Mm,
or I fade in the last 200 meters of my 800-meter race,
mm,
or I lose my cool when I am in a negotiation or when I'm in a courtroom with a particular judge.
mm,
Those statements that you make, they're kind of like definitions of reality. They're almost like promises that you make. Okay. How about talking to yourself about what you want? How do you want to be in that courtroom? How do you want to be in that final 200 meters? How do you want to be coming out of your stance? Whatever the heck it is.
mm,
So I urge people to come to, and I work with them and coach them on particular statements about a skill that they want to improve in, a quality or characteristic that they want to bring to their work,
mm,
and indeed an outcome.
mm.
Okay.
Very good.
I sell $3 million of medical equipment a year. You know, not I want to, I hope to. No, I do this. That's a promise I'm making to myself.
Okay.
And that's a bar that I'm establishing.
Mm,
And I'm going to work toward that, or I'm going to come up short. And then I got to look at myself and say, do I really want this? Or am I just pretending? And we all got to be honest with ourselves about that stuff.
mm. Very good. What about preparation as a
Okay.
final thought? Because for me, at least in my own life, like the podcast today, I was pretty confident this was going to go well. One, I had a world-class guest. And two, me and my team prepared for possible outcomes, possible questions, possible tangents we would go on, digging deeper. I came in here feeling pretty confident, frankly, very confident this was going to go. I think it's exceeded my expectations. But had I not prepared at all and walked in here 5 minutes before, like many interviews that I've been interviewed on, where I'm like, this person hasn't prepared at all,
Hmm.
frustratingly, I'm sure you too. So my preparation gave me confidence. Is that a criteria, or is that something unique to me?
No, that's not unique to you, though I compliment you on it for being so,
Oh,
certainly. I see human performance largely as the result of two complementary forms of discipline. The discipline to prepare, just as you described it. Let's look at what we want to accomplish. Let's anticipate some difficulties that we might encounter. Let's be ready for this. Let's be ready for that. So you are somewhat analytical. You are somewhat judgmental of what you want. You might even be a little self-critical. And I got to make sure I don't do this, and I got to make sure I do that. Okay, that is a wonderful psychological process that underlies preparation. We go to the gym. I got to be very careful about my form. I got to be disciplined about my progression. Okay, I got to suck up the effort. Okay, I got to be analytical and a little judgmental of what I'm doing. That's the psychology of preparation.
okay,
That's good to get you to the starting line.
okay,
Once you get to the starting line, there's another form of discipline,
okay.
and that is the discipline to absolutely, totally trust the preparation that you
Mm,
have
mm,
undertaken up to
mm,
that point.
mm,
I have to discipline myself to do the work, and then I have to discipline myself to trust the work that I've done,
mm,
as opposed to being too analytical, overthinking myself in the moment of performance.
mm,
Okay? I need to make a switch from being analytical and judgmental and critical to being engaged, open. supportive of myself,
Mm.
curious. Okay. It's a whole different vibe.
Wow.
Prepping versus performing.
Ooh.
I use the term workhorse versus racehorse.
Mm.
And if any of your listeners are curious about digging into this, get a hold of me. We'll talk.
Mhm. We'll also get the book. I got to ask you one last thing. Sorry, real quick.
Yeah, no, we're fine.
Is what you said there, that's a wow for me. Preparation and performance are different things. Do you think, like in the moment of performance, so I'm giving the board meeting, I'm giving the speech, I'm trying to close the sale, I've got 4.5 minutes to make the drive down the field to beat the Patriots, whatever the thing is there a nuance between, okay, I've completely prepared and I want to score this touchdown or I want to hit this drive down the middle, but almost to some extent, you use the word trusting my preparation. Do I almost separate from the outcome in the moment of performance and just execute? In other words, because the obsession with the outcome can create unnecessary pressure and doubt. Do you believe in separating from the outcome when you're trying to perform?
I think there is an important degree of detachment from the out. Really important. If a certain percentage of your mental energy is attached to that outcome, that means there is correspondingly less mental energy to be engaged in what you're actually doing,
Wow.
you know? And there is no mathematical formula for that.
Mm.
There's just the willingness to entertain the concept, deal with the concept, find your own personal way. And this is why I never run out of clients, because everybody is pursuing this. Find that level of detachment that works for you. I mean, you cannot be so detached that you don't prepare. You cannot be so detached that, the golfer better make sure that his gloves on right. Okay. He better make sure that he's read the course, that he knows the yardages.
Mm.
He better take the time to look at the wind and study the lie. Okay. But once he's done that, okay, hit the damn ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Hit the damn ball without thinking, okay, it's 240 to the pin, it's laying on this way. Okay, you've done that. Stop. Look, swing,
Mm.
trust. Okay. Everybody's got to figure out their own way to do that.
But that was so good. This is what I do, show. I bring you people you're probably not going to hear everywhere. And frankly, some of them are for me, and today was for me. Dr. Nate Zinsser, you are awesome, brother.
Thank you, sir.
You're awesome. The book is The Confident Mind. That's where you're best to reach out to him. Is there anywhere else you want him to find you or contact you, or is getting the book the best place to start?
Well, that's a really good place to start. Nate.Zinsser.com.
Okay.
Hundreds of people over the last 4 years have been, finding their way to me. Violin players in Austria, cricket players in Australia, neurosurgeons all over the country. I'm talking to a retinal surgeon and a Division I golfer in a little while. An emergency medical technician whose recreational sport is axe throwing.
Yeah, I haven't
I'm
worked
not
with
making this up.
I have not worked with an axe thrower. Well, I hope your server's strong because after this show, you're going to get hit up, brother. So we'll also get a bunch of book sales. Go rehab your knee. Everybody else, share this episode with anybody that you want to help build more confidence. God bless you, everybody. Max out.